David Cameron will go down in history as the Prime Minister who was in charge when the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union. On the morning of the result of the referendum, he stood outside Number 10 and announced his resignation, which at that time he believed would take effect in the autumn. It was 6 years earlier, then aged 43 and the youngest Prime Minister since 1812, that the man whose wife Samantha calls Dave took up residency in the most famous street in the UK. But his party had failed to win an absolute majority and so was forced to form a coalition government with Nick Clegg's Liberal Democrats. It was the first such government since World War II, and its priority was to get the economy back on track. It was a policy which led to frequent clashes within the coalition. And on the streets, the subsequent austerity measures, the deepest cuts for a generation, prompted demonstrations. Cameron defended the policy throughout, and by 2013 it bore fruit, with the UK showing growth above 3.5%, with 1 million jobs created in 2 years. On September the 15th, 2011, David Cameron and Nicolas Sarkozy arrived on a visit to Libya. British troops, as part of a joint mission with France, had helped to overthrow Colonel Gaddafi's regime. They were thanked for taking brave positions during the Libyan uprising. In 2012, he signed off an agreement for a referendum in Scotland to vote on independence from the UK. He did not want to be seen as the PM who presided over the breakup of the Union. To his relief, his bet paid off, and Scotland voted to stay in the UK. In May last year, his party defied all the pollsters' predictions and were swept to power with an overall majority. His election manifesto had promised a referendum on EU membership.
And yes, we will deliver that in-out referendum on our future in Europe. As we conduct this vital work, we must ensure that we bring our country together.
It wasn't until February this year, and after months of negotiations with Brussels, that David Cameron felt he had secured enough reforms of Britain's relationship with the EU to confirm the date for the poll. He said his government would support the Remain campaign, but what followed was a bitter and intense run-up to the referendum, with splits in his cabinet and party. 3 weeks after his failure to keep the UK in Europe, David Cameron quit frontline politics, leaving behind the turbulence created by Brexit.
So we'll have a new Prime Minister in that building behind me by Wednesday evening. Thank you very much. Right.